the humid green hush of the lowland jungle, where cicadas stitch the afternoon together with a steady whir, where vines hang like ropes and the air feels thick enough to drink, the Maya story begins and begins again. For theirs is a world of cycles, days and seasons, births and coronations, harvests and droughts, endings that are only doorways to the next beginning. They did not call themselves a single people. There was no one Maya king, no single capital, but a chorus of cities, Tikal and Calakmul, Copan and Palenque, Caracol, Yaxchilan, Quirigua, later Chichén Itzá, Uxmal, Mayapan, each a voice with its own timbre, its own dynasties, its own wars and marriages and traded promises. Yet they shared the grammar of a sky-watching faith, a script braided from tiny, elegant pictures, and a clockwork of calendars that let them read the heartbeat of the cosmos. The land shaped them, limestone plains that swallowed rivers and hid water in the earth. Cenotes, round and secret, where the world felt close to the underworld. Volcanic highlands, dark and fertile, breathing warmth into maize and beans and squash. Mangrove coasts with salt and fish, and through it all white roads, Sac Biob, raised and stony, glimmering under moonlight, straight as a thought, connecting plaza to plaza, shrine to shrine. The oldest villages whisper first. Small thatched houses gathered around a hearth, smoke curling into the evening, a mother grinding maize on a heavy stone, children chasing dogs between gourds and drying fish, a father shaping obsidian into a blade sharp enough to split a hair. In the pre-classic centuries, the plazas widen, platforms rise, rulers step onto the stage of time, and by the classic era, the jungle lifts its eyes to watch pyramids grow like mountains, masked temples crowned with roof combs, courts for the rubber ball, palaces with long, cool rooms and painted walls, stairs that remember ankles and sandals, and the slow, ceremonial tread of kings. The Maya did not measure time by accident. The sun is a strict teacher, Venus a merciless metronome. They kept a 260-day ritual cycle, a 365-day solar year, and a long count that tracks creation across great spans. They named days the way a poet names waves: Imix, Ik, Akbal, each with its flavor and tendency, a current to be ridden carefully. Priests watched the sky from platforms and rounded observatories, charting the burn and return of the morning star, noting eclipses, laying out temples so that shadows would speak on the equinox, so that a serpent of light would slide down a stair and remind everyone that the gods still walk the earth. In the glyphs, those tight knot of sound and image, the kings are Kuhul Ajo, holy lords, their names bound to creatures and forces: Shield Jaguar, Sky Witness, Bird Jaguar, Pakal the Great, Lady Six Sky. Behind each name, a lineage like a braided cord, marriages to stitch peace, raids to rip it open, captives led up stairways, ceremonies where blood feeds paper and smoke feeds gods. They believed that power required nourishment, that the woven order of heaven and earth needed attention, that pain, offered willingly, opened a door through which ancestors could speak. The world had layers, 13 bright heavens above, 9 wet, echoing levels below. Xibalba, where trials waited, scorpions and darkness, games and tricks, and between them the living middle world. Humans moved among these levels in dreams and rituals, and at the heart of it all, the world tree, the ceiba, roots in the underworld, branches in the sky, trunk in the villages, a ladder hidden in bark and sap and green shade. Walk with me into Tikal at dawn, mist lifting from the plaza as parrots shriek and monkeys scold. Temple Y and Temple the Seun facing each other like old rulers in a stony conversation. The steep steps slick with dew, the roof combs catching the first light. In the palace compounds, long corridors echo softly. Stucco floors cool underfoot. A scribe wakes, paints his brush with a line of black pulled from a shell, writes a ruler's dream in curling signs. In the market, cacao beans clatter in gourds, salt cakes trade hands, obsidian knives test their edges on a strip of fiber. A woman sells a painted bowl with a rim danced by deer and jaguars. Nearby, a young noble practices the ball game, hip and thigh finding the angle, trying to bend a heavy, living ball of rubber through a stone ring without hands. The court is a slice of myth, the hero twins forever playing their cosmic match, forever dying and returning, forever telling mortals that darkness can be fooled and beaten, if you know the rules and you're willing to bleed. Far to the south, Copan breathes refinement. Stelae rise like book spines in a library of stone, faces of kings sharpened with care, cheekbones, blades, eyes that look past you. Hieroglyphic stairways ripple with text, a river of history solidified into steps. Up in Palanque, water sings through channels and baths, a palace of light, the tomb of Pakal sealed beneath a pyramid's weight, a jade mask resting on a royal face that still seems to breathe. In Yachilan, lintels record queens pulling cords of thorns through their tongues, the blood drip feeding paper, smoke unfurling into the mouths of gods who lean down, curious. And in Calakmul, rival to Tikal, a king sharpens a spear in the shade and considers a date, because war too is scheduled by the sky. Day by day, life is simpler and not simple. Fields carved from forest with fire and patience, maize planted with a digging stick, beans curling up the corn's tall body, squash sprawling at its feet, hiding soil from hungry sun. In waterlogged places, farmers raise the earth into long, flat beds, canals breathing between them, fish in the ditches, mud lifted, dried, made fertile again. On the dry Yucatan, they cut mouths in the stone and drink from underground, chaltens to store the rain, cenotes guarded like hearts. A boy learns to whistle softly and call turkeys out of brush. A girl learns to weave a pattern that remembers constellations. Elders sit under eaves and speak of days when jaguars were braver and men listened more carefully to trees. Trade threads the cities together, salt from the north, obsidian glass from highland volcanoes, jade, green as wet leaves, shells from far coasts, feathers that look like pieces of sky. Cacao beans count out purchases, weightless and dear, carved bone needles, cotton cloth, honey. The sack biob feel the weight of merchants' feet. The sea feels the scrape of canoe hulls, and somewhere, night after night, a fire by the river listens to stories swap owners with pots. Their math is spare and beautiful, a shell for zero, dots and bars to count like music, a place value system that lets them climb high numbers quickly and gracefully. With these tools, they bind dates to deeds. On this day, this lord took this captive. This temple rose. This marriage made a knot between these houses. Time is both scripture and scaffold. In courts and council rooms the air grows tight. Emissaries arrive with gifts and news. An eclipse is coming. A drought has tightened the throat of a valley. A border needs the firm reminder of spears. Marriage proposals are written in jade and velvet words. Young nobles learn to read faces before they read glyphs. The calendar chooses auspicious days for war and for building, for planting, and for letting fields breathe. The king listens. The queen always listens. The priests keep the numbers straight, and the captains drill men in formations that look, from the temple tops, like weaving. But cycles do what cycles do. In the southern lowlands, the rain stumbles and misses steps. A dry year, and then another, and then a string of them like beads breaking loose. Reservoirs shrink. Forests, cut for burning limestone into plaster, do not grow back as quickly as they are needed. Soils thin. Rivalries harden. One city outlasts a neighbor, then falls in its turn. The plazas hear fewer feet. Trees arrive on their patient feet and take back stairways. Vines tug at lintels. Monkeys own the rooftops again. It is not one collapse, not one night when everything goes dark, but a slow drawing down, seats emptying, dynasties moving north or east or splintering into villages that hold their language like a coal from the old fire. Yet the Maya do not vanish. In the Pook Hills, stone blossoms again, columns and mosaic facades at Uxmal, Kaaba, Sayil. In the north, Chichén Itzá thrums with crowds, a city that speaks Maya with a new accent, warriors carved with feathered serpents, a round observatory peering at Venus, a great ball court where sound echoes 7 times and seems to come back touched by the gods. On an equinox afternoon, a serpent of shadow slides down the pyramid's stair, a reminder carved into light that the old sky bargains still stand. Later, Mayapan will gather power into walls, and then let it leak out again. Power, like water, travels in channels you can only half predict. When strangers row into view, men in floating wood with skin burned pale by a different sun. Messengers run, cornfields hold their breath, fires dim in doorways. The newcomers bring new gods, iron, horses, books that will not open in Maya hands, and a hunger to change everything. Some Maya cities negotiate, some fight, some fade into hills and keep quiet. The story of conquest is not one moment but many, stutters and postponements, rebellions that crack like thunder long after the first storm. The Itzá in the Petén keep their island capital into the late 17th century, stubborn as reeds, and even after the flags change, the old calendars continue quietly in kitchens and doorways. Midwives murmur the names of days. Farmers glance at the sky and no more than a barometer ever will. Codices burn in squares at the urging of men who think paper can trap demons. People watch their knowledge rise as smoke, but memory is not so easily cauterized. Glyphs return slowly in the work of scholars and Maya speakers. The script begins to speak again. Syllables unfurl. Names step out of stone and present themselves. Not ghosts, neighbors. Old rulers nod as their voices come back, and the modern Maya smile with a complicated pride. The kind that knows both loss and survival, both jaguar and corn. Let us linger with a legend. The Popol Vuh opens like a dawn. Gods trying to make people, first from mud. But bodies slump and dissolve, then from wood. But they walk without hearts. Their mouths say nothing worth keeping. The gods send a storm to scatter them. Finally, the makers grind white and yellow maize, add water, shape flesh, blow spirit into it. Humans stand, blinking, hungry, grateful, ready to praise. From that day, maize is not just food, it is destiny. The smell of tortillas on a griddle is the smell of life renewing itself, a daily ritual disguised as breakfast. The hero twins play their game in a court of reeds, summoned to Xibalba by lords who hate laughter. They lose, they die, they return. They outwit darkness with humor and nerve. They become sun and moon, or they become the reason sun and moon never forget to come back. When a ball bounces in a city court, it's more than a game. It's a rehearsal for victory over endings, a reminder that even in shadows there are rules, and if you learn them, you can make a path. Listen for craft. A scribe grinds red and black into inks, blows lightly on a page of bark paper, paints a deer with legs like the idea of speed, writes a name with care, lifts the brush, waits, touches the page again to finish a curl that means Lord. In another room, a carver fits a jade bead into a necklace cool as river stones. A potter paints a drinking vessel with a scene of a feast. Cocoa poured foamy and bitter, perfumed with flowers and spice. In a workshop by a courtyard, a weaver beats a pattern into cloth. Diamonds within diamonds, a net to catch meaning. Beauty is a kind of prayer. War has its etiquette. Envoys and captive displays. Dates chosen not only for weather but for omen. Feathers and flint. Shields with faces painted on them so the enemy meets two gazes in one. But it is not all noble geometry. Ambushes tear at borders. Star War raids aim to seize a city's kawil, its scepter, its breath of authority. Captives kneel on stairways as drums counsel the hour. Smoke thickens. The crowd breathes as one organism made of fear and awe. Ritual rises to meet politics, and the two cannot be cleanly separated. Perhaps they never can. Architecture answers the sky. Temples squared to the cardinal directions. Doorways like mouths swallowing and exhaling processions. Corbel arches lifting corridors into cool twilight. Stucco painted in reds and blues and greens, bright as birds. The jungle has eaten much of the color, but scrape the wall gently and you find sunset hiding underneath. Water channels hurry rain away from roofs. Reservoirs store it. Engineers in cotton kilts argue in quiet voices about slopes and catchment and lime. In a drought, the city remembers who the water masters are, and treats them like the priestly mathematicians they are. The classic decline is not a single story. In some valleys, stelae simply stop. In others, they multiply frantically near the end, as if recording itself could halt time. At Copan, rulers raise monuments right up to the last confident breath. At Quirigua, a vassal city seizes an overlord and briefly turns the map inside out. At Caracol, the elite burials stop arriving with the old pomp. In the western Petén, a last inscription notes a ritual. And then the jungle closes the book. Slow, deliberate. Vines spelling an alphabet of green. Centuries pass, and yet, in a highland market today, colors pulse, huipiles bright as flower gardens, patterns that say village and language and lineage without speaking. A woman buys chilies and jokes with a vendor in Caiches or Cachico or Yucatec Maya. A man counts change in his head with a number system older than the road the bus will take. A child carries a basket twice her size and laughs. At home, an altar holds candles and marigolds. Saints stand shoulder to shoulder with old gods wearing new names. The calendar priest checks a notebook and nods. Tomorrow is a good day to start a journey, to ask for rain, to carve the first notch of a house post. Archaeologists arrive with machetes and notebooks, careful feet, respectful hands. They map mounds that were once palaces, taste old dust, set up sieves that whisper as soil gives up beads and flakes and bones. Epigraphers sit under a thatch and argue softly over a sign. Is it a verb or a name, a title or a place? They trade jokes with the local crew, learn how to stay dry in a rain that comes sideways. Watch a snake let them pass. At night, bats sew the mosquitoes back together with their fluttering hunger. The camp light hums. Someone reads an old letter aloud. In the morning, the plaza feels a little more like a plaza, because someone said that it was again. Names return: Pakal, Kainich Janab Pakal, Itzamnaj Balam, Lady Six Sky, Smoking Squirrel. Not ghosts, neighbors, as we said, who were waiting for the pronunciation to be right. And in museums far away, a bowl from the Rio Azul still smells, faintly, like cocoa, if you close your eyes and cheat with memory. A jade mosaic mask looks up and asks you whether you have ever felt green as a verb. A carved bone picks its way across your mind like a heron through shallow water. Meanwhile, in towns within the old lands, the past is not glassed off. It walks to the market. It sits on the bus. It stirs a pot of atole. It checks the clouds for the particular gray that means soon, hunger and plenty, feast days and days of tight belts. The Maya know both. The story has plagues and wars, taxes and saints, railroads and radios, migrations to cities where Spanish swallows the day, and a Maya language rescues the night. There are teachers who tell children that the glyphs mean I am still here. There are poets who write new poems with old rhythms. There are farmers who try new seeds when the rain moves its appointments. The past is not a museum. It's a companion, sometimes a nuisance, often a guide, always a weight that can be carried with grace. Let us step back once more into the classic plaza. A ceremony gathers like weather. Incense braids with the sweet lie of copal. Drums count the blood's insistence. A queen holds a bowl lined with paper painted in red that wheezes and will bees. A court of thorns waits, speaks, demands, and she answers. The smoke writes a serpent. The serpent flowers into a figure with jade eyes and a headdress like a small mountain. Ancestors arrive, punctual. The crowd goes still. Someone coughs and then swallows the sound. Far above, a hawk turns in a circle that seems both casual and perfect. The king lifts a scepter. The day becomes official. The same sun that will fall on us now once fell on this square, on this gesture, on this decision to keep the world stitched together with action and story, and pain and beauty. And now, a quiet. The jungle presses a hand, gentle, over stone. The plazas seem to dream, but the dream is not empty. You can hear a maize grinder somewhere, 1,000 years in 2 directions. You can hear a child's laughter take a corner at speed. You can feel under your foot a stair that remembers you. All cycles overlap. Time is a woven mat. You sit on it, and the pattern touches you back. The Maya knew that, have always known that, will know it tomorrow, because the secret is simple and enormous. The world is made and remade, through counting and singing, through planting and pleading, through writing and dancing and telling, through keeping faith with the Seba at the center of the village and the Seba at the center of the sky. So, when night folds itself over the lowlands, when frogs strike up their green orchestra, when a cenote reflects stars like seeds dropped into water, remember this. The Maya did not only build pyramids, they built calendars that could taste the weather of centuries. They built cities that listened to planets. They built stories that let people walk through darkness without getting lost. They built a way to wake up each morning and know what kind of day had come to meet them. They built, most of all, a habit of staying, of remaining themselves even when the world arrived and insisted on a rename. If you sit very still and let the jungle's breath become your breath, you will hear the old clocks ticking, 260, 365, the count that runs long and quiet like a river under limestone. You will feel the noon press the plaza flat. You will watch shade move like a slow animal. You will see the serpent slide down a stair that was carved of light before it was carved of stone. And you will understand that the Maya world is not gone. It is simply still and moving at the same time, like all true things. And somewhere, in a kitchen lit by a coal that refuses to die, a grandmother whispers the name of tomorrow, ties a thread around a wrist, sets a bowl of water by the door to catch the path of the night. Outside, a Seba holds up the sky, roots deep, leaves talking softly with the stars. The white road waits, the market will wake, and the story will continue, exactly as it has, in cycles, in breath, in maze, in memory, forever